There was the offer of yet another concession from the government today on its controversial plans to reform the health service in England. Today's involves extra rules on hospitals making more money from private treatment. It is an issue that will be debated in the House of Lords this week. Our medical editor, Lawrence McGinty, has been to one hospital which believes NHS patients will benefit from more private money.
Pressure okay now?
Yep.
Papworth is one of the leading heart and chest hospitals in the country. Britain's first heart transplant was performed here, and it's now the centre for combined heart and lung transplants.
Can I have a size 10 ready back?
It's also one of a handful of NHS hospitals allowed to earn more than 5% of its income from private patients. There could be many more if the health bill is passed. We were given unique access to ask what effect that has on the hospital. I started on the private patients ward with Sarah Clark. She's a consultant cardiologist and head of all cardiac services at Papworth. And she says private patients don't and won't go to the head of the queue. If waiting times for NHS patients get longer, they go elsewhere.
We will still have the same number of NHS patients, more if they want to come, and they come because of our reputation. That won't change. It will be growing a new business alongside, so it won't be to the detriment of NHS patients.
This is one of the 16 private rooms in Papworth Hospital out of 270 beds altogether. It's a bit bigger than average. There's a private bathroom. You can get a newspaper delivered and even wireless internet access. But the treatment you get is, the hospital insists, exactly the same as an NHS patient. That's according to Papworth's head nurse, Anne-Marie Ingle. She's director of nursing and started here as a critical care nurse 24 years ago. She insists decisions about treatment are made on strictly clinical grounds and will continue to be.
If there was, for example, somebody who urgently needed to go to an operating theatre while we were about to schedule a private patient, then the clinical priority would always come first, and things would be altered and postponed to accommodate clinical priority. So I genuinely don't see any disadvantage to that.
The man in charge at Papworth is Stephen Bridge, the chief executive, who founded the private ward 20 years ago. He says money from private patients paid for equipment like this scanner, and he welcomes the chance to earn more of it.
Well, very much so. Again, we believe, because we have a trusted track record of putting that money back into the NHS, we believe that we could invest in even better equipment, even more equipment. And so we're very supportive of that.
Everyone I spoke to at Papworth was adamant that earning 6% of its income from private patients hasn't affected its service to NHS patients, and they want to do more, perhaps as much as 20%, to bring in extra income.
So, Lawrence, this debate begins in the Lords tomorrow. What concerns will be voiced?
Mark, if you look at the 5 NHS hospitals that are currently allowed to derive a significant proportion of their income from private patients, they have one thing in common. Papworth, as we've seen, Great Ormond Street, the Royal Marsden, the Royal Brompton, Moorfields, they're all specialist hospitals with an international reputation. That's what brings the private patients through their doors. Other hospitals don't have that unique selling point, and if they're to increase their private income, the fear is the only way they can do that is by putting private patients at the top of the queue. The government says that won't happen, and today it laid new amendments giving hospital governors, elected by the staff and by local people, powers to control income from private patients. But when the bill comes back to the House of Lords tomorrow, that's not going to be enough for the opposition.
All right, Lawrence, thank you very much indeed.